the button's been hit. Somebody hit that button.
Big red button.
Oh yeah.
Space madness.
Yeah.
You can't push that red button.
Well, we're gonna talk about the Suez Canal.
Oh yeah. It's been in the news.
All of a sudden, everybody thinks about it.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I got to it. That's how.
The memes are so good.
Oh man, I haven't even seen any memes.
Oh, there's a whole Twitter feed right now. They have the Austin Powers guy stuck in the hallway.
Oh yeah, right, right.
Fabulous.
That's what happened, right?
Yeah.
It got.
I mean, will we ever really know what actually happened? No, I don't expect to, ever. It's just, even if it happened exactly literally as they say it's happening, it's just as absurd. It's
Sure.
so good. Or was it a CIA op? Was it Mossad? Was it Iran? Was it the Houthis? Was it Syria? Oh, I guess I said it. Assad. Was it the Russians?
Well, man, cui bono or whatever.
Cui bono. Yeah. Or was it literally an accident that happened and it goes, oh, the whole world, 10% of the world's shipping gets caught and they're like, oh, it might be weeks until they can get this stupid ship moved.
Because Austin Powers has his little thing stuck in the tunnel the wrong way.
Yeah. How could this have happened? We're caught with our pants down. And the global economy's itty bitty dick is floating in the wind. Like, whoops.
Well, what's 10%?
Is it really a whoops situation? I mean, if I was a Houthi and who's launching drones at Saudi Arabia as we speak, because we've decided the Western world has decided Houthis are bad because Iran is bad. And we're genociding them. And we've been doing it for year after year. If I was a Houthi, sneak aboard a ship, run it aground in the Suez Canal and say, hey, we're human beings too. Why the fuck not? What worse could we do to the Houthis?
It actually sounds like a great movie, where, we couldn't make it because the James Bond character would be, not Western European. But
yep,
that's a cool mission.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And so subtle.
No, and nobody's died.
Right, exactly.
Very little violence. Just run the ship aground. Turn it sideways. Whoops.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Maybe they have to go through the...
Sainted.
Yeah.
You're now...
the Gulf of Mandeb or whatever it is, the Red Sea,
Mm-hmm.
But past the city of Sana'a. Why not? That's a good mission right there. It's not. Look at me. I am the captain now. Look at me. 10% of the world's shipping is stopped now. And what could we possibly threaten the Houthis with to say, don't do this again? Are you fucking kidding me? What are we going to threaten them with? Genocide? Again? We're going to bomb you into oblivion and cut all your basic human social services.
Well, okay, for hypothetical sake, let's say the movie version is true.
Right.
It's a Houthi commando who decides to turn the ship 90 degrees.
Right. In
the Suez Canal.
Right.
10% of the world's shipping or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? How do you leverage that into we're people too or whatever, or stop genociding us?
Oh, well, you would have if you wanted to do it stereotypically like the movie True Lies or whatever, you'd have a video that a leader of the
You'd need a propaganda campaign to go along with it.
Yep. And say, hey, we every day at the other end of the Red Sea where we are dying, we watch 10% of your goods go by and you don't seem to care anything about us. So we're going to keep doing this to you, or worse, unless you stop blockading us and bombing us into oblivion. We'll just keep doing it. So, hey, Saudi Arabia, United States, that coalition, whatever it is, you have to stop, otherwise we'll keep doing it. It's just a ransom situation.
Gotcha.
Yeah. You will open up trade. You will stop bombing our hospitals and our public infrastructure. Not that there's hardly any left. And you will send a bunch of aid for our starving babies. And or else, 2022 we'll do this again. Or we'll maybe do it again this year. Mm-hmm. Or maybe we'll take an oil tanker and blow it up and have a big...
Maybe worse.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be casualties next time.
Right. Yeah. So, or maybe the ship made a mistake, or they say the wind blew it.
Yeah, blown off course. I mean, didn't look like it had a lot of sails on it, but I guess...
Yeah.
I mean, things do happen, I suppose.
And what's so wonderful about this is there's going to be people who are like, the historian of the Suez Canal is just like, yes, yes. The guy who wrote the book 5 years ago about a history of the Suez Canal that sold 100,000 copies. Maybe he did it. Yes, my time to shine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And he's showing up on NBC.
I'm moving some copies. I'm
Dude,
moving some units.
Cha-ching.
I'm the talking head expert. Yeah.
Oh my God. This is the best day of his life.
I'm sitting next to Rachel Maddow all of a sudden.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fuck yes. And now all of a sudden, now the world goes, oh, you mean there's choke point? You mean something could go wrong?
Like I said, I remember us talking about the Suez Canal in the past, but it wasn't occupying a lot of my brain space till I saw a post on Boing Boing. You know? Oh, fucking
a boat,
some sort of transport or barge or whatever.
Right?
Is stuck the wrong way around. It's like getting a toothpick stuck between your cheeks or something.
Yeah. And you can't open your mouth anymore. It's poking. It's so perfect. It's so perfect. Now we're worried because maybe my pack of underwear at Target is going to cost.
All of a sudden we remembered.
Yeah. Oh, huh. And okay, well, Al Jazeera's been posting photos of what it's like in Yemen for how many years, and we're like, yeah, fuck them. Because Saudi Arabia told us to, and Iran is bad because they told us to. Okay. Don't disregard your enemies. And probably Yemen has absolutely nothing to do with this. Probably. But I hope, I'll go on the record. I hope it is them. That'd be cool. Stop the war in Yemen. Stop the genocide in Yemen. Because of a boat.
Bodie McBoatface.
It's so cool. It's so cool. Oh, man.
But, is anyone... I mean, we noticed because it's on the news now, but, am I going to notice that my pack of undies is late? Yeah, probably not. No, not here because there's a little bit of leeway. And so what'll happen is some suppliers and factories and stuff who need the part now are going to go, fuck, we had to stop production. Mm-hmm. This is... with the book, when the truck stopped running, actually gets into that fairly deeply, that just-in-time delivery has been the mantra of a lot of Western and American businesses for a while now. Kind of part of the overall financialization of everything. And so they don't actually have a lot of inventory in their factories to make what they need made. They can maybe run on their own for a few days, and then it's like, if the shipment doesn't come in, no more, we can't make water bottles. We can't make carbon fiber. We can't make... another one has been the chips, microchip manufacturing, because of the nonsense the U.S. is doing with China. It's disrupting supply chains of chips, and there was like a Ford factory that had to stop making F-150s for a few days because we can't get the chips. We can't get the computer parts. Whoops. Well, due to U.S. trade policy with China? Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah, because we don't want... We think they'll spy for the government. And it's like, the Chinese government already has its own spy agencies. What are you talking about? Just thinking about this yesterday, and it's something we've talked about before, and I was going to say, well, I don't want to bring China up this early, but you did it first. So it's like spades are broken, so we can... Yeah. Or hearts are broken, or whatever. So we can lead spades and hearts, or whatever. But yeah, my neighbor just went for a little trip down to Arizona, and apparently his refrigerator crapped out. It just reminded me again, like all the posturing that we like to do when it comes to, big bad China. Everybody's favorite. Next, boogeyman / nemesis. Yeah. Like, even sort of entertaining the idea that there could actually be any sort of, or maybe I'm naive to think that it's ridiculous, but even entertaining the idea that, we could actually be in some sort of open conflict or hot war instead of a cold war is like, where are you going to get your new fridge, bro? Samsung makes fridges.
Yeah. It's lunacy.
Is Samsung Chinese or is that Korean? Yeah. Anyway.
But Samsung gets all its rare earth elements from China, so it's kind of a Chinese company.
Right.
So
it's I guess it's probably silly to think like, oh, well, then consumer electronic goods just disappear, because I imagine that there have been world wars in the past where there was still like products from those companies trading hands. I mean, from those countries trading hands.
No,
but yeah, like where you buy. I mean, if there's literal GIs shooting, infantry on the other side, like do we still get to buy toasters at the grocery store or not? Or cell phones or what have you.
It would be so disruptive. It would accelerate very badly the ongoing collapse that we still can't seem to pull ourselves out of. Christmas would be very much canceled. And it doesn't. The way to think about it is you would have to draft tens of millions of Americans directly into the military. You would have to catastrophically raise taxes. And you would have to convince the American people and the government, the Democrats and Republicans, would have to work together for a decades long slog before we could defeat China militarily. So it does, so see it from the other way. China on its own, it's a very wise move, has reshaped the international system into one that's kind of post-national. It's made economies post-national. This is a good thing. And it makes conventional type wars, World War II type wars, kind of impossible, pretty much. And everybody in the developed world has such an amazingly high standard of living that they don't want to give that up for anything. Certainly not a war against the Chinese.
So am I being overly? Are my ears pricking up in an overly sensitive way just because it's something we talk about when I sort of think about this rhetoric? This rhetoric exists, right?
Absolutely,
in the American culture.
Oh God! Look at Fox News, Tom Cotton, the Chi Coms and whatnot. The rhetoric exists, but it's all tongue, no bone. What was it?
Oh, yeah. Tongue has no bone.
Tongue has no bone. That's what it is. It's completely empty rhetoric. It's a fifth grader muttering in the corner.
So I shouldn't even pay it any mind, hardly, then.
You should think about it, but it says a great deal about Western civilization and nothing about China.
And very little about the relationship between the two.
Correct. If there was let's say there was an incident in the Strait of Malacca, where where Indonesia, it's the Isthmus of Kra comes down, like where Singapore is, that part of the planet.
Okay.
A lot of trade goes through there. It's very narrow. It's like 13 miles wide.
You can just go around Singapore, right?
Yeah. A lot of oil goes through there. I think the book says something like...
It says 17.8. I'm looking at it right here.
Is it percent or million barrels a day?
Percent of world oil production. And that was in 2011.
Yeah.
17.8%. Yeah.
Ooh,
just under the Strait of Hormuz.
Right.
Measured at 20.3. But.
Yeah. So if there was a major incident there, let's say our Navy collided with a Chinese Navy boat, and it's all over the news, like Bodie McBoatface in the Suez right now.
Mm-hmm.
Diplomatic activity would be very flurried. There might be some captured soldiers. There would be an exchange of sailors and whatnot.
When you say collided, you mean like a little sort of accident.
Yeah, an accident.
And say no gunfire.
Yeah. Or let's say there was a little bit of gunfire. There would be frantic political activity to say, no, it's okay. Though a stock market would fluctuate very wildly. The price of gold would spike. there would be sell-offs in other companies, and there would be intense diplomatic effort to say, calm the fuck down. Everybody calm the fuck down, because I don't want Christmas.
We're all good.
We're fine.
Because
and
we
be
still
very
want
minor.
Christmas.
Yeah, everybody wants Christmas. And speaking of another strait, the Strait of Hormuz, I forget how many years ago, a U.S. boat strayed way too close to Iranian waters, and the sailors were captured and released.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, I can maybe walk to work because I live across from my little water bottle factory. But if it got bad enough, there'd be no reason to walk to my water bottle factory because they would not be making water bottles.
They couldn't make water bottles, right?
Yeah, you think coronavirus is bad for the economy?
It's a snow day for old Adam over here at the water bottle factory.
Yeah, and so the rhetoric about China is, especially in the United States, especially after the Trump administration, I think we can, bring him up now, but it's a joke. It's a big old joke. It's, what it's like?
Right, but I guess it does, regardless of its sort of veracity, it's like still sort of meets its own ends, it still sells ads on the networks or whatever. It still gets right. It doesn't matter whether you're lying or not if you're sensational, if the point is to be sensational and make money.
It reminds me more like the WWE wrestling when they shit talk to each other in the ring. It's like that, except China. Eventually, probably what'll happen, China might be like, if you keep this up, if you keep using this rhetoric and interfering in our internal affairs, we will boycott all American goods. And then you can go pound sand. You can grow soybeans and watch them rot in the field. We're not going to buy any more corn or soybean from you, and no beef or whatever. They've been very carefully playing around, the Chinese have been very carefully nipping at the edges as warning shots across the bow of like, hey, we found a disease in some of your beef. Mm-hmm. And we are going to
take a break
from it, and then when we have satisfied our health standards for your beef or soybeans or whatever,
we'll
then
import
we will
it again. Yeah, okay.
That's a very careful maneuver. That's how they work. But when the decisive break happens, and it's probably going to be a when because America doesn't know what it's doing. Oh boy, we'll just all the rhetoric will suddenly come home to us, and we'll go, oh no, we didn't mean it. We're not racist. We're not trying to contain you. And it's like, then what if? Yes, you have, and we will never buy from you again.
And also, you've been warned.
We've been warning
many
you
times
for
over.
Decades.
Okay, so is there anything to this idea that of sort of oh boy, I can't even remember the little like catchphrases people use, but sort of a mutual reliance as far as we'll say that they do import a lot of beef or they do import a lot of soybeans or whatever. Like, is there an idea that or how much validity is
right
is there where we are sort of mutually dependent when it comes to import export trade at large? Could they cut it off and produce their own soybeans and their own beef and their own whatevers, like whatever they're buying from us right now?
Right. China has been slowly disentangling itself from the United States. They don't like to be dependent on anybody. And they have been looking for new markets for things that they can't make themselves, like Brazilian soybeans or Argentinian beef, things like that. And
which we all know is the best beef anyway, right?
Yeah. Well, and the thing is there's a lot of poorer countries that are very rich in commodities that China really needs that are ready to rev up their economy. And what China has done is it's built a big pile of foreign exchange reserves, sucked it out of the Western nations by selling more than they buy, and so they have a positive balance in their account. And then they take those foreign exchange reserves and they move it to poor countries and develop infrastructure and markets in those poor countries. So they sucked some wealth out of the Western colonial world, like the United States, and held on to it and then deposited it in places like Tanzania or
Okay,
Brazil,
so they
things like that.
deposit it in Tanzania, and then what?
And then Tanzania can build railroads and roads and supply and maybe build mines, or they don't have much timber, or they can invest in soil and start growing a lot of soybeans and then feed China with it. Environmentally it's not great, but economically it's a virtuous cycle. Because a dollar doesn't go very far in the rich, old, fat, senile Western world, but it goes farther in the poor, developing countries. It's just that simple.
Interesting.
The return on investment per capita, per unit, a dollar goes farther in poor places than rich places.
Gets you more railroad there than it will get you somewhere else.
Yeah. Economic growth in the United States.
Or more soy fields there than
it
might somewhere else.
And since they are undeveloped, many of the countries that are undeveloped, it's actually more efficient to do what's called greenfield applications, where you're building a factory in a place that's never been built, out in the open, a green field, or railroads. See, they are helping Africa leapfrog over the 20th century. The European countries didn't develop them economically enough, especially in the 1900s, and so but the technological advancement went farther during the 20th century. So in places like Tanzania or Ethiopia or something, you don't have to rip up the old 50-year-old railroad track.
The obsolete infrastructure
wasn't even there.
Right. Right.
They can go straight to high-speed rail in some spots. We don't have something that was built in the 60s.
I see.
Because the Western world screwed the pooch.
You actually sort of save on that one.
Yeah.
On the retrofit.
Yeah.
Or the reno or the modernization. It's like, well, we never got 20th century modernization, so we can start fresh with 21st century modern tech. And sort of save at least on that.
Yeah, think of
Interesting.
Think of it with a molten salt reactor. Some places might go straight from no electricity to a molten salt reactor instead of dams, coal, natural gas, all that horse shit. Dude, how many nuclear reactors are there on the continent of Africa? The only ones I know of are in South Africa because they had a nuclear program. I don't know of any. That's a wide open green space. That's a lot of people who need cheap electricity. Too bad the U.S. can't do it. Womp womp. We invented the fucking thing in 1963. But, whoops. China's going to go in there and say, hey, here's a molten salt reactor. Use it to power your people. You'll buy our finished goods. And you'll ship us your commodities. They're going to... There's major agricultural potential in sub-Saharan Africa. So they're going to start growing corn and soy on the same scale as like Brazil now. Brilliant maneuver. They've built that world. Planet China is a good phrase. And you think. I
mean, it just sounds like they're much better at playing Sim City than
they are. That's just literally true. I don't. At a certain point, it's like a handicap we have. Like, oh, he's still playing golf, but, he has a handicap. But that handicap doesn't really... Okay, so if you add 5, you can still play with the big boys, but that doesn't mean anything in reality.
Well, yeah. I mean, even Go has handicaps.
Sure.
You can still play with the big boys, but, you had to get 6 stones to begin with on the board.
Yeah. It's really something. And they're kind of what they're doing in a certain sense is they're exporting to the developing world the model that works so well internally for them. And so it's like a flame that they're pushing out.
That's kind of a nice... That's a nice image, nice idea.
Communism, bro.
I mean...
It works.
When it comes to like evangelism or spreading the good word, just to let like you said the fat old Western colonial powers just sort of die, sort of leapfrog them and don't worry too much about them, and then maybe the developing world gets the actual good word.
Yeah.
or good news or whatever. I don't know. The real gospel.
Yeah, and like the whole the worst case scenario, I think, from the Chinese perspective, is to be actually seen as a boogeyman. But the propaganda efforts in the Western world seem to be kind of, I don't know. You'd have to go to the streets somewhere in the developing world to be like, do you think China's bad? You know, because it doesn't matter what we think.
Boy, here. Yeah, I would have no idea even what to guess. Because I'm so inundated with, well, you know, the culture I live in and the civilization I happen to be a part of at the moment. Like, wouldn't even be able to guess what a Argentinian thinks of the Chinese state or nation state.
Right.
You know,
right. The worst thing they could do is be aggressive. You know, which I don't think they will do. It'd be a terrible, terrible mistake, but all this, you know, and then one little, human nature being what it is, you know, we inhabit certain narratives, and then a boat gets stuck. I thought everything was fine in the world. Well, you know, I don't want people to be miserable, but maybe those narratives just aren't true. Maybe you're just saying that to yourself. And that's the beginning and end of it. Rome will last forever. Well, actually, no, it'll crumble away. And your precious emperor, someday there won't be a Roman emperor. I remember that years ago, there was something it was a newspaper article of a historian being like, well, the West, you know, it would have been as unthinkable, you know, the collapse of Western civilization, or not even that, it's non-existence. It's gone. It's not there anymore, but humanity has moved on. Could that happen to us? And it's like, you're a historian. What the fuck do you think your job is? Will the Kushan Empire last forever? The Hephthalites, you know? Damn. One little fucking boat gets stuck up your butt. A little, you know, you can't pass that
stuck
turn.
In your craw. Yeah.
Oh, you're sitting. Oh God, I gotta pass this bowel movement. Hey, he's stuck. It's a boat. 10%. Hilarious. How did you come to this straight? How did you let this happen?
Can we just, for my own sake, specify again? 10% of
global maritime traffic goes through the Suez Canal. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
They say if
global maritime traffic.
Yeah.
Okay.
And waterborne trade is kind of everything. It is profoundly cheaper to move things by water
than by any other means.
And so any business that
even diesel locomotives, which I hear are very efficient.
They are, yeah. And this is what I mean when the trucks stop running. It's as much a not a diagram, a manual on this is if you wanted to dismantle the global economy, here's how you do
here's how you might.
Here's what it is, and it's like
throw a boat in the Suez the wrong way around.
Yeah, you don't even have to use violence. Literally a mistake, maybe. You know, and so it's like learning. It's like martial artists learning. Here's the pressure points. Here it is. Right. Here's what's vital. You don't do a chokehold on somebody's arm. You do it at their neck. There's a reason for this. You don't try to do a chokehold around their foot. So global maritime trade is everything. It is the reason why we can have this. Here's what it is. Oil lets, in pre-fossil fuel eras, people moved to goods. Fossil fuels allowed goods to be moved to people. And that's what we call our standard of living. That's why I live in this stupid fucking house with all my shit just piled around.
Mm-hmm.
Post fossil fuels, we'll go back to moving people. Moving people is cheap. But that little brief window of fossil fuels and all that global maritime trade allowed
we can just sit here
to go the other way around.
Interesting.
I have fresh fruit in my fridge all year round. I don't have to be seasonal. But you better not let Bodie McBoatface get stuck, because then you might have to start moving to goods again instead of what you're used to, goods being brought to you.
And it'll be even harder on the poor humans who
have never had to move.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At least those pre-fossil fuel humans were used to it.
Yes. Yeah.
It's going to be uglier than that, maybe.
We brought up the Houthis. How far can do they have a lot to lose in their standard of living? Even in a post-fossil fuel era. Holy fuck, you know? What? Oh, you're going to take away my non-food as I'm starving to death? So there, you know, if you pile up wealth, you better have really solid walls around it. Otherwise, it will flow downhill into people who don't have it. A lot of these empires you read about were in some way, it was a class system. An old entrenched power structure got lazy, and then the underclasses rose up and took that wealth and power. All war is class war. So let's talk about peak oil. You know, like, Bodie McBoatface gets stuck and a lot of oil shipments don't get through there anyway. We talked, one of our better ones was peak oil, coronavirus peak oil, Chuck E. Cheese, right? U.S. oil production has dropped in less than 12 months by 2 million barrels a day. It was about 12, now it's like 10, and it's still going down because the oil price dropped too low, and there was nowhere to sell it. Demand kicks out, they shut down wells. Why would we pull oil out of the ground that literally has nowhere to go? Okay, how long does it take to get those 2 million barrels a day back up, even when demand comes back? So price of oil is going to spike this summer. So to our investing listeners out there, you might want to invest in an oil company right now. You'll get it at fire sale prices.
Always wanted to invest in an oil company.
Right?
Of course.
Yeah. We're in the stage of like when you're sucking at the bottom of a straw, you'll get blocks in production, choke chain effect. Supply can't meet demand just right anymore because there's not enough good supply, and so you can't just have smooth transitions.
Nicely,
yeah. The era of smooth lines on the graph is over, and it will never come back until we get the molten salt reactors out. But I mean, it's one boat, and the whole planet is talking about it. Oh, my boat. Well,
oh man, I want to get on you know how Google keeps track of the search terms.
Oh, I bet it's skyrocketed. Just
Suez. Million people just learned where the Suez Canal is.
2 billion. Right? Yeah. Dude. Right? It's pretty cool. I think it's great. That's a good way to educate yourself.
That's right. I'm still working on it, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I've been sitting there, hyperinflation. Wanted to do an episode on that, but we didn't. But what we actually did that was a really bad one. But,
oh, did we?
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of like one of the symptoms of collapse is that you just start losing track of stuff, and eventually you start losing track of whole cities and provinces. I don't know what's going on in Spain anymore. I don't know. Literally, I'm the emperor. Yeah, I don't know what's fucking going on over there. I gave up. We won't be talking about the Suez Canal in a few weeks. It'll be something else.
Right. Well, and like you said, the graphs will no longer be smooth.
Yeah.
Right, that's another way to lose track of something.
Yeah.
And if you can't predict it,
Yeah.
if that thing looks like that's a nice bell curve, or I can see the slope very clearly with my good data, but then things start sort of bouncing around chaotically, well, then you've lost track.
Yeah, for sure. One thing, I mean, the coronavirus is slipping away from the main narrative. It's not okay, everybody's getting vaccinated and it's going to be all right now, and it's like, yeah, more or less, but we screwed the pooch. The Western world screwed the pooch on that as well, and look how much 12 months can change things. 12 months ago, I was doing the biochar experiment. It was ongoing for the city of Tacoma, and and then coronavirus destroyed my little world. So, how could we? I love it. It's so cool. It's tautological. If we were resilient, then we wouldn't have these problems. If we didn't have these problems, then we would be resilient. Well, if you're not going to be resilient, get used to more shit like this. It's just that fucking simple. Don't invest your oil in resilient systems. Invest it in infinite economic growth and let the chips fall.
And see what happens.
Yep. If we were not Western colonial powers, then we would not be vulnerable to the Suez Canal. We'd go, oh, it got stuck. That's fine. Doesn't affect me. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you wouldn't even hardly
hear
about it.
Yeah, I got a year's worth of food in my pantry. I only buy one pair of new shoes a year. I farm locally. I mostly support local farmers. Things I truly can't get, I get from elsewhere.
Why would I care about Bodie McBoatface?
Yeah. Oh, that sucks.
90 degrees wrong.
Yeah. I don't have fresh fruit in my fridge all year long, but I have a whole lot of canned fruit that I bought from a local orchard.
Right.
Is this so impossible? Yes. If you're a Western colonial person, something else. You want something else out of the world, and you'll move mountains. And you'll move mountains of material across the ocean through the Suez Canal, and you get so mad at nature and statistics, probabilities.
To be fragile. You work so hard to be fragile.
Yes, that's the way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like putting on a tuxedo. It's expensive.
Yeah.
And then you're fragile.
Yeah. And you can't get it muddy.
Yeah, that's right. You can't climb trees.
Yeah. People are, how could you raise pigs? Oh, I don't know. It's good for the dirt around here. Oh, I would never do that. Give it a shot. You might be surprised by the results. It's not so bad. And then you don't have to worry about your bowel obstruction in Egypt.
Oh, man. Yeah. That's funny. When you're that...
Dude.
When you have to worry.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to deny about your worry.
Right.
Like, because we well forget about the Suez. There'll be another crisis in a few, oil prices are really probably going to spike unless there's going to be a rebound effect of everybody wanting to go out and party and drive and do the shit they haven't done for the past 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 12 months. Sorry.
Right.
So everybody's going to want to go drive and go take the vacation they were denied last year.
Right.
Intense demand pressure.
Yep.
And in the United States alone, 34,000 oil rigs have just been shut down, and there's a lag time effect. You can't just turn them on again. So in about 4 or 5 months, there's not going to be enough oil for demand, and it's going to spike again this summer. Oh, how could you have let this happen? How did you come to this strait? I thought 4 months ago we were talking about Bodie McBoat in the Suez Canal. Well, they got that unstuck, and so now we're worried about this other thing, and it's like, bro, you've been living in peak oil for 20 years, and you don't know about it now? Oh, peak oil surges. on Google in June and July, right? Oh, I thought renewable energy could cover all that. Fuck, well, I guess I never really thought about it. Whoops. Should have listened to that podcast that said wind and solar sucks and why fusion research is a waste of time. Okay. All right. But we're on a death march. And one or two people are going like, oh, there's a cliff over there. You have to stay in line. Don't get out of line, bro. We got to march off that edge. Jesus. Pretty cool.
Meanwhile,
yeah,
we should be getting kickbacks from old Alice over here.
Yeah. She's good. She's
if anyone ever listened to this,
Yeah, it's a good book. If you want to, well, I won't get into that, but the railroads are the other efficient one. They move 45 in terms of how does it work? Railroads are great. But they move 45% of land-based travel, but only use 2% of the fuel.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like, it's almost a land ship.
Mm-hmm.
It's ocean going, then it's canals, freshwater moving, all that. And then it's, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. In terms of efficiency.
Okay. Not volume.
No.
Right.
But,
yeah, that makes sense.
It's really something. And so she makes the point. Overall, trains accounted for 45% of ton miles and they do it with just 2% of transportation oil.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, double stacked. You get the 2 shipping containers on top,
mm-hmm.
and so they're moving the goods to final demand. But, yeah, she makes the point. She's a logistics officer, so she goes crazy about inefficiencies because that's her job. And she's like, we have like 5 years of enough oil left. We should really heavily be investing in upgrading our freshwater transportation sectors.
Wow.
Canals, locks, dams, all that.
Wow.
And the opposite is happening. It's just crumbling away. Same with railroads. She's like, bring back railroads.
Yeah.
And we're converting them into hiking trails and shit.
Right. So, yeah. Got 5 units of the good stuff left. And
nothing afterwards.
And we continue to throw bad money after bad at the most efficient surface transport we can.
Yeah.
Trucking and not canal or proper diesel locomotives or railroads or whatever.
Yeah, straight up. I mean, John Payne.
Yeah, Tom. Yeah,
Tom Payne. Sorry,
thinking of him. Yeah,
built a railroad, built a small.
He was just always extolling the virtuous efficiency of the diesel engine over everything else.
Yeah.
And also, just when you were talking about that, it reminded me. I can't remember what we were trying to do, but he encouraged me to get onto the STB. Probably it might be a .gov. Like I was supposed to be researching something, but I think it's Surface Transport Bureau.
Oh,
right. So it's specific to surface.
He was Canadian.
Over the earth.
An American one?
I think that might be the American one.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, just thinking about the distinction between the maritime or the freshwater canals, and then as far as the surface goes, you've got railroads or trucks.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
And the railroads are vastly more efficient than the trucks.
Oh, profoundly, yeah. And the thing is you can't. It's like core versus periphery. You can't say, well, we should make the trucks more efficient. You should as much as you can, but don't get mad that they're less efficient than an ocean-going vessel. Like, think of how many.
Sure.
Yeah.
You can't make UPS stops at
Correct.
People's houses with your boat. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And so they're always at the periphery where demand is finally met. Don't sit there and be like, well, we should. You're also pounding sand of trying to make something more efficient when it really can't.
Can't be, right.
But
because again, these days we want the stuff to come to us.
Yeah.
We're not going to go to the stuff. We're not going to all go pick up our Amazon fulfillment orders at the port.
Yeah.
Where the efficient barge drops it off.
Yes.
We need the inefficient trucks to bring it to our house.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to
Yeah.
leave our doorstep.
And I'm certainly not going to walk there.
Right, exactly.
And it's like, bro, if you're hungry enough, you'll do anything. And boy, I've come to accept this, that the inertia of our material life and the past 600 years of history is it can't be stopped. You know, like, even you can do all you want, you can to prepare for it, but it's really quite trivial in comparison to what's happening. So I'm just here to enjoy the ride. I'm no longer trying to change anything or make the world a better place. But when it happens, there are no choices. You do not say, we ran out of grain. Now we'll make it better. You will die. The Taiping Kingdom I'm reading about now it's fascinating, and you know, the capital city had one open route to get the grain shipments to their capital city of Nanjing, for, you know, because it's this rebellious kingdom, and the Qing armies had cut off all trade routes, and so they had one artery bringing all the blood and oxygen they needed. And when it got bad, it got really bad. You know, the anecdotes are gruesome and don't need really maybe to be told. But I think a lot of the illusion of choice when history is now happening to you. History doesn't care about your choices, especially when you're in a situation like that. And in fact, preserving the freedom to act is maybe what you should do almost no matter what. If you feel yourself getting backed into a corner, take a worse option just to avoid the corner. It's like kung fu. Accept a blow just so you don't get backed into a corner, so you still have the freedom to act. I don't know what's over there, but I know I will still have choices, at least. Peak oil affects everything everywhere at about the same time, almost instantaneously. And so it would happen over a matter of months. Like at the beginning of this year, it seemed we had industrial civilization. By the winter, we didn't. I sounded like a doomsayer. Oh, doomsayer. A boat got stuck in the Suez Canal. It's costing $400 million an hour. I'm the doomsayer? I'm the doomsayer. $400 million an hour. You're the doom maker. I'm just saying it. You make the doom. You made doom. Why? Why? You didn't have to. $400 million an hour. You know, like, oh, fuck. So insurance companies and like, we talked about the guy who wrote the book about cha-ching, you know, all the vultures moving in right now. Think of the intense competition think of the phone lines between shipping companies, insurers, factories, alternative shipping routes, rescue crews. Oh my God. Oh my God, right now, as we speak, there are guys who are not going to sleep for 5 days.
Right.
And they're going to be on the phone every hour of that. There are going to be guys pissing into bottles and pooping into plastic bags because the phone will not stop ringing. What an opportunity. One choke point makes another.
When there's blood in the streets, you know.
Dude, it's so cool. Here's a country that doesn't have to worry about the Suez Canal, Russia. We don't care. We have all the fucking oil we need. And they've been talking about, hey, take the Northwest Passage. As a joke. It's so good. They are a resilient culture. They can't help it. It's great. Russia's tremendous. Dude, to be Russian right now, clinking glasses. Oh my God. Because all of our sanctions and whatnot, they've been going more and more resilient. They're the world's largest grain exporter. They export natural gas. They export oil. They have all the forests they need. They have all the soil they need. Their population is smaller than Bangladesh, and they have all that land mass. Damn. Dude, we could have done the same, but we're not Russian, so we couldn't, when you really think about it.
Right. How could we have been any other way but the way that we are?
Yep. What do they say in No Country for Old Men? I got here the same way the coin did.
Oh, yeah, right.
Got here, yeah.
What would that look like, though?
A resilient United States?
Yeah.
Okay, well, of course.
If we could have actually acted, against our nature, which is, like you said, we couldn't have. But
right. If we
what would that paint me a picture?
Okay. Here it is. If the reforms of the New Deal had been kept with and followed through, put the reins on Wall Street, put the bit in the mouth of Wall Street, and the big companies, mild socialism, and wise and sustained use of our immense natural resources. So, the New Deal was not environmentally conscious, but it would have become that with the rebellions of the 60s and whatnot. And nuclear and then molten salt reactor, regular solid state nuclear and then molten salt reactor. Even though if you look at the history, we didn't have to go solid state nuclear. We could have gone straight into molten salt reactors. Be that as it may. Tone down the Cold War where it's just like, hey, we got nukes, so do you. You know, we're not going to throw ourselves into defeating the Soviet Union for no fucking reason. And then, Jesus Christ, we don't need it so much oil. And we have these molten salt reactors, and we have electric buses. So here's a mild one. Let's say, who did Reagan defeat in 1980 when we really took a nosedive? I think it was Carter, but the federal government says our car fleet is going to be all electric by 1985 instead of Reagan taking down solar panels off the White House. Right. And no, we're not going to allow stock buybacks in corporations. And no, we're not going to let investment banks be the same as deposit banks. And yeah, then Americans would own their houses instead of rent, and the homelessness wouldn't be so bad, and it would have been a Green New Deal, and lo and behold,
resiliency,
yeah. Look, and a healthcare system like that terrible Mordor country like Canada. Oh, we could
hellish up there, from what I hear.
Oh, it's just that socialist hellhole of Canada. I don't think people live well.
Yeah, I've always hearing that.
Yeah, the suffering Canadian is a real trope. And then it'd just be like, oh, the United States is in a very wealthy and very lucky country, and they take reasonably good care of themselves. Don't invade Iraq. Bro. We would still be running out of oil. Peak oil is still going to happen. It's a finite resource. But you would sit there, and as a society, you'd have the freedom to act. You'd say, oh, shit, we're running out of oil, peak oil. Let's deal with this reasonably. And, it'll also help us solve global warming, the legacy pollution of our ancestors. It's not impossible. Russia, China are doing it. Canada did it. So it's,
Just a couple tweaks, really.
If you do it soon enough, it is tweaking around the edges.
If we had done it, it was just a couple tweaks.
Yeah. The one I saw, I was looking at tours of Chinese villages. The government provides solar panels to peasants for free. If you want it, you can install it. I'm against that. I think they're actually making a bad mistake. Unless those panels aren't really connected to the grid, in which case it's a very good idea. And they mandate that public transportation is electric. Whoop-de-fucking-do. There's still a bus. It's just electric. And most of the little scooters, the putt-putt scooters, are electric.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of electrifying your transport grid then becomes very reasonable and quite possible.
Right.
Unlike here, where oil was cheap in the 90s, and so they bought SUVs. Like, okay, how'd that work out for you? And so I think, I've said we have a death wish, but you feel it.
This is weird, and like it's silly. I'm just a tourist, but having been to China briefly and seeing lots of little motor scooters or electric scooters or motorbikes or proper bikes, and then remembering playing like Street Fighter on an emulator on the PC. Like one of the stages is in like Beijing or something.
Yeah.
And in the background, there's lots of bicycles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like so much so that it's part of the setting of a sort of cartoonish representation of a place.
Right.
Right.
There's ducks hanging in the windows.
And
and bicycles.
Lots of bicycles. Yeah. Which is nothing you don't see that in the Los Angeles stage or whatever.
No,
in the
big cars
in the video game. Yeah. But yeah, the bikes then turn into the scooters and the electric scooters.
Right. And there's a lot of memories of the bad years of communism and Maoism. They are not going to go back to that level of living. They've been there. They won't. And they're like, would you hop on a bicycle in the rain? If you had to go somewhere? Fuck that. So they'll transition from the scooters to electric cars.
Right.
But they've preserved the freedom to act, and so they have the options, and so they will. And then it's not oil then they don't care about oil shipments. They care about lithium or whatever the next bottleneck is. One thing I've wanted to mention this, but one cool thing about the molten salt reactor, especially if you hook them up to sulfur iodine industrial cycles that scrub CO2 and make methanol or ethanol or whatever, is then even the geography of oil and fossil fuel deposits is gone. Every country would then be able to simply produce the liquid fuels it needs.
Right, like we were talking about this before we started, but just the fate of the geography and geology of where the fossil fuels live.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Then that has disappeared.
Yes.
Now it's no longer up to fate, whether you happen to be Russia
or Saudi Arabia,
who can be at least in part resilient because of their wealth.
Yes.
The happenstance, the coincidence of fate.
Yeah, the coincidence of geography.
Of where these things actually exist.
If you're an average Saudi, if you're an Arab on the Arabian Peninsula, you're probably going to be like, oil is the worst thing that ever happened to us. It's the worst thing that ever happened to our society. It's the worst thing that ever happened to Islam. It destroyed us because I want to build a beautiful society, whether it's religious or secular, whatever. Oil prevented that. It enriched these horrible royal families and fucked everything up very badly. Well, if you have molten salt reactors, oil isn't a curse in either direction. You can just, if you're Nicaragua, it's like we have all the liquid fuels we need forever until the neutron economy runs out. So,
which is going to take a while.
It'll take a long time.
Even regardless of where you happen to live.
Correct. You can. There are some countries that would be rich in thorium, but there's enough thorium and enough uranium around that you could probably get everything you needed
locally.
Fairly locally. It wouldn't be a bottleneck. It wouldn't be. It would hurt, and it would be more efficient to just get it from rich deposits, but you couldn't lord it over somebody else.
I see.
Unlike fossil fuels, where it's like you can't just drill wherever you want, bro, but you could get thorium that you needed. Fuck, I mean, if you really needed to fire up a reactor, you can actually do it with neutron accelerators, neutron generators. You don't even need uranium-235 technically. You could just get some depleted uranium and use like a hydroelectric dam to power this immense neutron generator, and once you start it, it keeps going.
Oh, interesting. It's like throwing the prop over an old plane or something.
Yes.
You have to start it mechanically.
Yes, start it mechanically.
But then it goes pot, pot, pot.
Yeah, it keeps going after that. Yeah, and then once you have a molten salt reactor going, it really does just keep. You don't need to. You can even turn off your neutron accelerator if your neutron balance is above 2. So it's an incredible world to think about, where it's just like, oh, okay, because liquid fuels are way too useful for transportation. Chemical store, it will still be stored chemically. Big bulky batteries suck. But you'll just have chemical fuels. The energy came from molten salt reactors, and the material that holds the energy came from the atmosphere, carbon dioxide. And so it's just like, yeah, I have a car out there, it runs on methanol or whatever.
Right.
But it came from the atmosphere.
I remember you using a term like drop in or something like that one time. Yeah. That sort of stuck in my head. I can't remember. I remember writing it down. I can't remember if I ever asked you.
She brings it up
later,
all the time, and when the trucks stop running. Like
so even when we're living in our molten salt utopia, we're still going to convert that energy into the drop-in fuels because they're just so useful.
Yeah. And the basic properties of it are just infinitely superior to batteries in that sense. And you need less of it.
That's kind of nice for the gearheads out there, though. There's something sort of more romantic about an internal combustion engine than there is about driving around an electric motorcycle.
I'd say so. Yeah. I feel the same way. Yeah.
At least with the sort of mythology we've inherited, I find a motorbike more compelling than an e-bike.
I agree.
For no good reason.
The aesthetics might change.
Exactly.
Like it's considered a barbarian. Oh, smell these fumes.
Yeah, right.
Hell yeah, dude.
So loud.
Yeah. But no, that would be a nice future, one with less bottlenecks.
Sounds kinder.
Fewer
bottlenecks sounds kinder.
Because even like the threat of like bottlenecks invite violence. That's the point.
Right.
If Bodie McBoatface had turned sideways in the middle of the Pacific, it doesn't block a damn thing. Yeah. Nobody cares.
Right.
If somebody says, I'm going to cut your supply of oil, so you better do what I say, they go, my supply of what now?
Right.
I have all the energy sources I need.
There's less opportunity, less levers around to be violent with.
Yeah.
Fewer levers.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. You have a gate in the middle of nowhere. You're wielding a stick at the air instead of,
Now we're all Tai Chi masters instead of, the bully getting our arm up behind our back.
Yeah, right? It's more like a dance and less like a slugging match. Yeah.